Senora Lopez warned me not to go home, but Eduardo, where else can I go? I'll throw together a few clothes, find some money, and then, like all the others before me, I will disappear. If Norberto catches me, he will cage me like one of his birds. I'd rather die. When I reach home, I'm relieved to find Mother and Father arguing. With all their attention on the quarrel, they don't notice how upset I am. I make for the stairway and my suitcase, but when I hear the General's name, I cannot move. Father is saying, "Adela, you must understand why I am fighting so hard to save General Lopez's life and to keep his illness a secret. There are generals out there who are after Lopez's position. They would like nothing better than discover that he is ill and vulnerable. They would pounce. I have had to make elaborate arrangements at the hospital to preserve his privacy. No one will know on whom I am operating. In exchange, the general has agreed to my conditions. He believes not only his life, but his position in the government depends on agreeing to pay my price." "What do you mean, paying your price?" Mother asks. "I don't understand. You have performed operations for nothing for people who can't afford them, and he is a rich man." Without thinking, I say, "That's true. The Lopez place in Tigre must be worth a fortune." They both stare at me. Father says, "You have been to Tigre?" "I have given myself away. I mustn't involve my parents in what I have done." Hastily, I say, "Just the once. I wasn't alone with Norberto. His mother and father were there." Father's face is white. "I forbade you to see Norberto. And not only did you disobey me, I now learn you have been in the same house with General Lopez?" "The visit to Tigre was before you told me not to see Norberto." "The general must know you are my daughter." Father is looking at me in a strange way. I can't keep the truth from my face. All this time, Mother is studying me as she studies the work of some poet whose obscure words hold a deep and secret meaning. At last, she puts her arms around me. "Sylvia, tell us what happened." In her arms, I can't hold back. The whole story tumbles out. "It was only to save Eduardo. I am sure they will come after me now. I have to get away." Father is crying. I have never seen him cry, even when they took you, Eduardo. "Oh, Sylvia," he says, "all that was unnecessary. My price to operate was always Eduardo's release. Lopez promised that he would find a way of quietly letting Eduardo go. What will he do now when he finds out what you have done to his son? Now Lopez has 2 sticks to beat us with. Eduardo, everything I did for you was for nothing." "Don't scold Sylvia," Mother begs. "It was a very foolish but a brave thing she did. I am so grateful to the General's wife. She saved you." I am still clutching the useless envelope Senora Lopez had given me, and now, anxious to get rid of anything that has to do with the Lopez family, I thrust it at Father. "Senora Lopez said to give this to you." Father pays no attention to the envelope, throwing it onto his desk. "You have only minutes to escape." He reaches into his pocket and empties his wallet. Mother flies about gathering more money, and I stuff some clothes into a bag. "Memorize this address," Father says. His hands are trembling. "I don't dare drive you. They'll be looking for my car. Take a taxi to the middle of the city, and then a bus so they can't trace the taxi all the way. I know the people at this address, and they will help you get out of the country." So Father has his secrets, too. I throw my arms around Mother and Father, saying my goodbyes, the tears on our faces mingling. But when I open the door, a policeman stands there, his hand raised, ready to knock. Behind him are 4 other policemen. They grab my shoulders, hustle me away, and throw me into a van. I am blindfolded and pushed onto the floor. "Eduardo, is this how they took you away?" "Perhaps they will exchange me for you. Perhaps after all I have found a way to free you. I am terrified of torture or death, but I will endure it if they will let you go." But what if Father is right? Unless he does what they ask, not only you, Eduardo, but I too am at the mercy of Lopez. Father will have to operate on General Lopez and on anyone else the General's wish. I can scarcely breathe. As the van speeds along, I pray for some fatal accident that will save my life by destroying it. I am led blindfolded, my wrists and ankles in shackles, down a long corridor. I stumble several times until I learn to manage the shackles by lurching side-to-side movement. I am pushed into a room where my blindfold is removed. A military officer sits at a desk staring at me, a quizzical look on his face. He is the one who will carry out General Lopez's orders. This is the man who will have the power of life and death over me. He says, "I did not expect to see someone so young and so attractive. What can a girl like you have done to infuriate the Lopez family?" I am afraid that every word I say may incriminate me, or worse, you, Eduardo. When I remain silent, he says, "It is very unusual to have the general make a direct request." The tone of his voice as he speaks of the general and the Lopez family is impatient, even a little bitter. What if he doesn't like doing their business? Perhaps he will welcome anything bad I say about the general. He may not treat me so harshly if I give him information against Lopez. But what if anything I say about General Lopez is passed on to the general himself? Then it would go very badly for me and for you, Eduardo. But I have nothing else to bargain with. "What do you know of General Lopez?" he asks. I remember how Father has said that General Lopez wanted to keep his illness a secret, and I say, "I almost feel sorry for the general. He can't be responsible for what he does." Alert, the man demands, "What do you mean?" "Since he is so sick, he is not like himself." The man's eyes widen and he licks his lips. I have his attention. "You know of such an illness?" "Of course there have been rumors." He leans toward me, and I guess I am right to think he wants to know more about the general. "He has a very serious condition," I say. "My father is going to operate on him tomorrow." He studies my file and must see that Father is a physician. He listens closely as I describe my visit to Tigra and the general's weakness. He had trouble walking and he looked very ill. "And this operation, it will cure him?" "I don't know." "Your father has done such operations in the past?" "Yes, many." "And his patients survived?" I could have lied, but Father has written several papers about his good results. "Yes," I admit. "Well, then," there is a look of disappointment on his face. "If anyone can survive, it would be General Lopez. You had better prepare yourself for a long stay." All this time I have been thinking of you, Eduardo, wondering if you were dead or if by some miracle you were still alive. I can't help asking, "Is my brother here?" I think I can stand anything if you are nearby. For an answer, he asks, "What kind of mother and father do you have to raise such foolish children? Perhaps things will go easier for you and your brother if you give us information about your parents. If we learn, for example, that they have spoken against the generals, we might make it easier for you. We will say you were young and easily influenced by what you heard at home." Hastily, I declare, "My parents don't care about politics. They never spoke to us of politics." It was true. Until you were arrested, Eduardo, Father would have nothing to do with what was going on in the country. He cared only for his profession. Mother did not care about politics either. She wrote her poems about the suffering of others. That was truth and not politics. Now truth had disappeared just as we have. The man does not like my answer. "After you have been here a while, I believe you will remember the words your parents spoke that turned the two of you into rebels." He motions to the guard to take me away. As I follow the guard, the steel clamps rub against my wrists and ankles. I stare at each cell door, wondering, Eduardo, if one of the cells might be yours. How I long to beat on the doors and shout your name. Instead, I have to stumble, silent and frightened, until I am pushed roughly into a cell and the door is bolted. Eduardo, you must be in a cell like mine. Apart from an iron cot, there is nothing in the room, no sign of the others who have occupied it. I don't want to think what has happened to them, or what will happen to me. I know that if I can prepare myself, I will be less frightened of what comes, but everything from the stories of torture to the tales of bodies washed up along the river do nothing but paralyze me. With such stories, how is it possible to continue to hope? There is a kind of scraping or tapping on the wall, so I know another prisoner is in the adjoining cell. There seems to be a pattern to the tapping, but I can't make it out. I tap on the wall in answer to let him know he is not alone. I sit on the cot, rubbing my wrists where the shackles have chafed them. The glare of the single electric bulb is like a malevolent eye staring at me. My thoughts are all I have for company, and try as I will, I can't escape them. All my efforts have led to this, and where will this lead? The hope I had of freeing you has vanished. I have no idea of time, which once seemed a gift but now is a punishment. An hour or 2 hours pass. My door opens and a guard pushes in a tray. On the tray is a bowl of watery soup and a scrap of bread. The food means nothing to me. I can't imagine ever eating again. The man stands there staring at me. With his broad shoulders and large hands, he is a man meant to guard others. His uniform is freshly pressed, and I picture him each morning putting it on with pride. The way he studies me makes me nervous. I curl up and retreat into a corner of my cot. "You look like the boy," he says. "What boy?" I am shaking. "The boy in there." He inclines his head to the next cell. "What's his name?" I ask. I hold my breath. He shakes his head and starts to shut the door. "Wait!" I cry. "Wait! Is it Eduardo Diaz? Please, is it my brother?" He does not look like a kind man. How could he be and come here day after day in his freshly pressed uniform and listen to cries for mercy? Prisoners have no names. "Can you at least tell me how he is?" I've stopped breathing. The guard surveys me and then answers. He survives. I think the guard must be an angel sent to walk through these corridors and give bits and pieces of hope, like drops of water, for those dying of thirst. I don't know if it is you, Eduardo, but when the guard leaves, I put my hands on the wall that separates me from the nameless prisoner. If desire were strength, the wall would fall to pieces.